technically. So basically in this freezer, this is, I think it's 150 GSM carbon. All of the tubing is made with this. The longer roll is a little bit thinner carbon. That is just for the overwrapping of the junctions. So everything starts there. Then we'll go on to the Eastman plotter. So we just put it on this rack, spools out, and then the Eastman plotter will cut all of the individual pieces.
Yeah.
For a tube set or overwrap kit. And then once that's done, and we actually will print out, I believe it'll cut 2 bikes at a time, main triangles, bottom brackets, head tubes. Those are separate. We do those files per bike.
Yep. Yep.
So we'll usually cut, 5 or 6 bottom bracket kits, and then we'll build those as we need them, build headsets as we need them. We do use some 3K weave, which is what this roll is. We do use this for reinforcement thing. Yeah. So this is what the 3K weave looks like.
The 3000 weave. Yep.
Yeah. So we use that to reinforce dropouts, certain areas of the bike that are high stress. So once that's done, then we would apply many of these sheets together for the tubing. Then they'll go into a mold. They get wrapped and they'll go into a mold. So this would be, this is a top tube mold. So basically we apply all of the carbon together, then it gets wrapped into this mold around a latex bladder. Everything gets clamped together. Then we'll go into a heat press with nitrogen as pressure.
Nitrogen.
So,
that's interesting. I didn't know about the nitrogen.
Yeah, I'm not sure the reasoning behind that choice of gas for inflation on the tubing. And we use different sets of tubing. This is the heat press, nitrogen tanks. So everything will basically, it'll get pressed in between these heated platens, and usually anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes.
Oh, that quick?
Under pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of the carbon, is unidirectional except for the reinforcement areas.
Yeah.
This is the latex tubing. So, and we have different thicknesses and diameters of that. It gets plugged. I can show you the end plugs. They basically have air fittings.
Yeah.
Once
The
we
bladders.
put it in the press, very kind of, if you're doing anything with carbon construction, you basically know that it's heat and pressure is what cures it. So it's kind of nice because most of the stuff that we use is not like a liquid resin. So because everything is pre-pregnated carbon, it's fairly easy to handle. It's almost like a sticker. So it's not too messy.
Right. Like my students they're mixing the epoxy together, and they're definitely getting that experience of how messy that is. Whereas you've got the carbon with it already in there, then you're heating it, and with the pressure, then that hardens it.
Right.
Yep.
And I don't know, we can go into things kind of move around. So once we would cut the kit, then it comes into kind of a clean room. And this is where we would do all of the wrapping for a bike. So basically everything would go into a bin. So one whole bike's worth of cut pieces will be in this bin.
Yeah.
And then it gets plied together, meaning we'll stick 3, 4, sometimes 5 sheets together. Then it gets wrapped into the mold. Once it does that, then it goes into the press.
Yeah.
Once it comes out of the press, then we get essentially a full tube set. And it'll vary by bike. So, we'll rack different tube sets. So we'll get, a rear chainstay piece plus down tube, top tube. Like I say, bottom brackets will get done separate.
Yeah.
Once that's done, then it's almost like metal construction. You've got all the individual tubes. They get mitered, chopped, cut. So basically we've got, this will be an e-bike. We're waiting on the down tube. So on our electric bikes, they have the head tube, down tube, and bottom bracket are all one piece.
Right.
And then this would be the balance of the bike. So dropouts, wishbone seat stay. These are the individual chain stays that will plug into the existing piece and the top. And this will eventually cut this port out. That's where the electronic controls for the electric bike. And then they just go into a standard frame jig.
Right.
So right now we don't have anything jigged up. We're waiting on the down tube for this bike. There's a lot of prep after it comes out of the molds. I have to clean it up, do some prepping, then it goes into the CNC machine. Then we add threaded inserts for the motor. It actually gets an aluminum head tube race that I have to glue in. Then it will come back to here, get jigged up, and then it gets glued with a 2-part epoxy. And it'll sit for 20 minutes to overnight, depending. Once that's hardened, we can put this whole fixture. This is a powder coat oven.
Oh, cool.
That's where we do any curing. So we'll cure frames. A lot of what I do gets cured in here. So it's a giant heated oven.
So not only are you using it for painting, but you're also using it for curing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And honestly, most of the paint that we use, because it's PPG automotive paint, it gets cured in a separate room under infrared.
Oh,
so
cool.
This is mainly just for carbon construction.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
And again, it's just kind of the tubing will bounce around from kind of spot to spot, person to person. There's essentially 5 of us, 4 of us that make the bikes. It comes to me 3 or 4 times in the process where other people handle it once.
Right.
So it just kind of depends on what we're all doing. So once it's cut, fixtured, and all of the epoxy is dry, then it comes to me. Then I start cleaning it. I clean up all the excess epoxy around all of the joints. Then I add putty, which is it's a 2-part epoxy resin putty. Kind of looks like cake batter. And I slather all of the joints with that. Then it goes back in the oven to cure. Then that gets shaped by hand, sanded in the sanding room. So this is where I spend most of my time.
So there's a dedicated space for the sanding, because we're sanding in my classroom and there's dust and everything everywhere. So you keep it all in there.
Well, we've got, so these 2 tables are, they're hollow and they're hooked to a vent system that basically goes up. So when we're sanding, we can change, there's a
like a lid,
like a butterfly.
Yeah.
So we can either vent the dust from the room to there, or we can vent, suck the dust from the tables. And
it looks like you have some power tools for the sanding.
So I've got, my sanding masks, for when it gets really sandy.
Your sanding masks.
Yeah. So yeah, these just, this ductwork basically goes into this table. So when we turn the fans on, it's an exhaust fan. So when I'm like, this is the e-bike bottom
down tube.
Down tube, head tube, bottom bracket. And I have to put in all of these motor mounts.
Yep.
So the motor will mount into these. So I have
like
to kind of grind this out, shape it. These get epoxied in. Once that's done, then it can be held in the jig.
Yeah.
But I have to do that before it can be held in the jig. So So yeah, it's super messy. This room is really bad. You know, I blow these frames off probably once a week, and you can see, you know,
Right.
it's super thick.
And super important to keep that mask on and get that carbon out of your lungs.
Oh yeah, I don't ever go in that room without a mask. Like that's really rare for me to even walk in there like that.
Yeah.
It's dusty out here too. We just kind of do the best that we can to keep as much of the mess contained as we can.
Yeah.
And you know, and we also do metal fabrication here too. So these are all some stock tie frames that we have ready to go.
Titanium.
Jeff is our welder.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so this is his welding area. So he does not only the titanium frame construction solely. I do a little bit to help him out. I do some polishing, some rooming, stuff like that. But he also miters all of the carbon tubes and glues those in. So essentially, he puts every frame together, and then I'll take over the carbon and finish it up to paint ready state. So for me,
hey real quick,
the sanding.
Hey Brad, hold on real quick. Will you go back and show them that big, go to your left a little bit, that right there, that red and black thing, everybody? Does anyone know what that might be for?
Oh yeah.
It looks like a big curtain.
For welding.
Who said that?
Adam.
Adam, congratulations. You get 100 extra credit points. Why is that important for welding, Adam?
So people in the shop don't get blinded by the UV rays or whatever.
Yeah. That welder is going to be working behind that. The welder has a mask on, so he's okay. You can actually get sunburns from the weld. So like the welders will have like full sleeves covering their arms so they don't get too much of that. And then people inside the facility, they don't want to just look over and catch that with their eyes. So that big curtain gets pulled out.
And Jeff is really conscious the way he welds, because he welds everything right in this corner. When he's welding, we almost never see anything out here. It's like the curtain almost never gets closed.
Yeah.
Just like if this were situated differently, but when he's welding, he's actually blocking almost all the light, and it's almost impossible to see what he's doing.
Yeah.
So you know, it's really, but yeah, and he's super cautious about it. Always long sleeves, stuff like that. He used to weld for Serrata.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. So he's done aerospace stuff as well. He has worked for Serrata doing the titanium, steel. He's also done stainless and aluminum as well.
Hey, Connor, does your family have a Serrata? No?
My mom's old bike is a Serrata.
Yeah, there you go. He could have welded that. Who knows?
Potentially, yeah. He was there for quite a while. Now, they had a team. They had several welders.
Yeah.
He was not the only one. So once the tubing is put together, and I kind of laid out some bikes here so you can sort of see a little bit of the progression. So this bike would be as it comes out of the jig. So these are raw carbon tubes, and you can see the joints.
With the
this
putty.
is this is what's called DP 420 NS. It's a two-part epoxy. Comes in like a little caulking gun, and that's what we use to basically connect all of the tubing together. Then I'll go in and actually clean all of this excess up. Then once that's done, then I actually put the two-part resin putty on, and then I will clean up. So I'll smooth the joint like this.
Yeah.
And when I first put it on, it's pretty rough. So you'll see.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, you really kind of cake it up in the whole sort of junction. And then I go in and smooth by hand and make all of these contours like perfectly smooth.
Yeah.
Once this is done, then we go to overwrapping. And the overwrapping, so I actually cut this overwrap kit this morning. So everything that's on this square is one kit.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of all of this, I think it's 100 and 16 pieces, all of this will go onto one bike. So
was that cut with
in
the
a different
machine?
layup schedule. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is cut with the plotter.
Yep.
And it cuts out in a giant file, and then I just kind of pull them up. So all of
Yep.
these individual sheets are very thin. And on this, we only have basically two directionals. So we'll have zeros, which
Yep.
are cut in line with the fibers. So you
Yep.
can see that these are straight up and down. And then we'll have 45s. So that's a 45.
Yeah.
And obviously the whole sheet is 0.
Yeah.
It would have just been oriented like this when
Yep.
it was cut out.
Yeah.
So when we layer up each of the junctions, we have a certain layup schedule, and basically we will go with a 0 layer, 45s in opposing directions. So 45, 45. Then we'll add, well, it depends on the, exactly, depends on the junction, but we'll do anywhere from 2 to geez, up to 6, 9 layers of that progressively to build it up. So obviously high stress areas get more, multiple wraps. And then each of these is kind of cut in a, particular fashion. So they get laid up. You don't want any of the layers to end at the same spot. That way you're spreading out any kind of a stress riser.
Yeah.
So once it's done and laid up, this is an overwrapped frame that has been sanded.
Ah.
So it's difficult to see unless you catch the light. You can
Yeah.
see all the different layers in stripes.
Yeah.
So I've got, 0, 45, 45. We actually go 2 more 45s. There's zeros that are hidden underneath of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That were
you'll
maybe
kind of see
shorter.
it.
Yeah. And would that schedule of wrapping be the same for every bike, or is it the bike that you and I would ride be different than maybe a 200-pound rider?
No, basically per bike,
Wow.
it stays the same.
Okay.
And generally, this bike, this is a Ronin AR,
Yeah.
I believe. Or no, this is an Atlas AR. So this is basically our all-road frame.
Yeah.
And then this is a Hiace, which is more of a road specific.
Yeah.
But this is actually an older frame. But because we still have all of the molds, if somebody wants one,
You can make one.
all of the carbon is the same. We just
Yeah.
cut out another kit, and we
Yeah.
pull out the old molds and put it together. So
Cool.
this is an older one.
So the
but
schedule
yeah,
for that
each-
would be different.
The layering process and the number of layers is about the same. The only thing that would change is if you have a joint that's different. So on some of the bikes, we have a one-piece bottom bracket. So the way this
Yeah.
yoke plugs in,
Yeah.
there's only one seam all the way around.
Yeah.
On an e-bike, it actually has 2 separate
Stays. Yeah.
stays. So we'll have a seam here and then another one on the other side.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of a variation based on the e-bikes are the main difference.
Yeah.
But essentially these 2 bikes going from an all-road or gravel bike or this road bike, we actually print the same exact, we cut the same exact overwrap kit for
Yeah.
each one. So I wish I would have had one of these that was sanded down. I did this one this morning, and this is still a little soft. So
Oh yeah.
I pulled it out of the oven a little early so you could kind of see the process from one to the next. And then once basically everything has reached this point, it's been overwrapped. This has gotten sanded again. Then we go through and I re-putty a few of the joints just to get it all smooth. Once this happens, then we small part it. Small parting is just drilling all of the holes for water bottle bosses, ports for the internal cable routing. Those are little aluminum pieces that get glued into the frame after it's reached this point.
Oh, I was
That
wondering
will
about that.
vary.
Are there like little
Yep.
tunnels for the internal routing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's just a tiny aluminum oval port that can either be a cable stop or a full cable housing for either shift, DI2, electric shifting, or a hydraulic brake line. It'll fit any of them. So
Multiple.
again, depending if we know a customer's grupo, what they're going to build with, we can tailor the bike and have as many as they need or as few. So like the new SRAM Axis stuff, they don't need internal routing because it's all wireless.
Yeah.
So that makes a really clean bike. The only thing that we route internally would be the rear brake cable and a dropper post if they choose.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on the bike. Our gravel bike does get an extra water bottle boss set on the down tube and a bento box set of mounts on the top tube. And then we also, that bike gets provisions for fenders. So we would have a threaded insert at the chainstay, bottom bracket area, two on the backs of the seat stays, and then one actually up underneath the seat stay yoke as well, so that you
Right,
could
for
mount fenders
fender.
to whatever you wanted. Yeah. So I don't think too many people do it, but you know, it's there for those that do.
Yeah.
So once this is done and the small parting is done, then it basically just gets a final sanding. And then it would go to our paint department where the carbon bikes all get what's called magnet coat. And it's like a sort of a primer specifically for carbon fiber. So sort of paint area, paint booth is through that door. You can see the back end of it.
Oh, yeah.
But magnet coat is a clear coat that's essentially like a high build primer for carbon, and it'll get 2 coats of this. It'll get sanded in between each coat. And once those 2 magnet coats are on, that's what we would consider paint ready. So even the magnet coat is really pretty. Like it's just a clear coat, but it really shows off like the sort of the carbon overlap. You know, you can kind of catch it in the light, and it really shows off some of those details.
Nice.
Some people get them, you know, fully painted, some don't. It just kind of depends. But this is an e-bike that is magnet coated and ready for paint. So from here, it's kind of, you know, we do have a stock paint job that we will put on these, but customers can do really anything that they can think of. Phil, our painter, he used to work at Independent
Oh, really? Wow.
Fabrications as a painter. He painted
Yeah.
my cross bike.
No way.
So yeah,
Full
yeah,
circle.
he actually painted that. Yeah, totally. So
Yeah.
such a small world. This is actually his personal bike, which is kind of a custom. It's an Atlas, which is our road bike. But it's really nice, super cool. Like this, the paint job on it, if you see it in the light, is just, it's beautiful. So you had actually asked about carbon repair.
Yeah. There's a good question about that.
He took this bike and was riding at the mountain bike park over by Cherry Creek High School, and came off of one of the logs and sort of bashed a hole in one of the stays, and basically limped it back and was able to go in and repair this. And
Oh,
the thing
cool.
that's crazy is there is a repair on this tube somewhere in here, but it's so imperceptible. Like if you didn't know it was there, it's completely just, it's gone.
Yeah, that's
It's
amazing.
invisible. So the way we would do that, obviously some of it depends on the nature of the damage. But we would basically just use a set of overwraps like we would do for a joint. And we would just tailor it to the size of the damage. Everything would get sanded down to bare carbon. Then we would overwrap it with, depends on, again, the severity of it, but we would overwrap it with, you know, anywhere from 4 to 8, 10 layers of carbon. Then instead of the way we would normally build it, we would just wrap over that with a specific shrink wrap tape. Then it goes into the oven, that shrink wraps and basically melts all of the resin and the carbon together with the base carbon.
With pressure,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what you
Yeah.
need too, is that pressure.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only thing that we don't need to do, because once that resin has activated, the carbon fiber becomes strong enough in itself to withhold the pressure. So we would not have to put an internal bladder in it to
Right,
have pressure
right.
from the inside out. So that's sort of the difference. When we do our bikes here, when they go into the oven, after everything is done, after the overwrapping. So once overwrapping is done, it comes out. We would take the bike. It gets wrapped in a blue. It's a specific plastic. This is like a really high. This plastic it's super thin, but it's really, really durable. Like you can
Yeah.
pull it and stretch it really hard and it won't rip. So we would actually lay this out on this table. The bike would get laid in on top of it with a couple of layers. We would have anywhere there's an overwrap junction that gets what's called bleeder. So this is bleeder fabric.
Yeah.
The very, very thin nylon, you can almost see through it. So we would cut this into little pieces. We would wrap each joint with this. Then it gets breather, which is a much more porous cotton material.
Yeah.
So then this would get layered on as well and wrapped around every one of those. So we would wrap all of the junctions, lay the bike on this bag. Then I actually tape the bag closed with a special tape. Then we use a vacuum pump and actually suck all of the air out of the tube or out of the bag, rather. Once it comes to full pressure, there's a really good compression on the whole bike, and it will go into the oven under pressure still for 3 hours at 200 degrees. So it's that's probably the most nerving part of the whole process, because if you lose heat, if you lose compression, if there's a pinhole in the bag and you don't get the compression on all of those carbon layers while they're curing, they won't, they basically don't kind of become one piece.
Right.
They get delamination. So you go through all of the hours to get the bike to this point, and then one little thing in the oven to basically render the whole frame basically scrap. So, so it's a little, I'm very, take my time and make sure it's done right. And, basically, as you're sucking the air out of the bag, you really have to massage all of the joints to make sure that the bag and the breather and bleeder are right up against the joint. You don't have a lot of excess while it's pulling all the air out of the bag. So that's good. I haven't shown a frame yet. So, so that's basically like the full process as far as how the bikes are built. And then, like I say, paint, once everything's painted, we do anything from, we'll sell just frames, get parts. We also do full bike builds as well. And when we can get the components, which right now is going to be quite an issue. For tie frames, they're a little bit simpler as far as the process. Jeff would make a tie frame. Once he gets it done, it comes to Phil or myself, and then it comes back and it will get, basically, it'll get sandblasted first. That cleans off all of the discoloration from the welding around all of the joints, and basically takes the original sort of machine finishing off of the tubing. Then it goes into a smaller, this would be like a silica finer media blasting cabinet, and that puts that really nice sort of satiny finish on the bikes. So kind of depending on the bike, and what we're doing, we'll finish them a little bit differently. Some of them will get, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll actually polish. So on this, you
Oh, yeah,
might
yeah,
be able to touch the
Yeah.
light, where we'll polish the tubing, lay protective film over it for the logos, and then blast it. So you get kind of that nice reverse two-tone effect with it. So, and then the next bike over, that's actually a reverse painting. So that's a tie bike, just with the mask off and then painted over. And it's got like a, sort of a 3/4 finish. So
Yeah,
the front part's painted, back part's tie.
nice.
So,
Oh,
and
and
this
I
is kind
see,
of,
will you show us those papers? What's going on with those?
yeah. So this would be, I was gonna see if I could find one that's a customer bike. These are stock, I guess it really doesn't matter. Basically, this is a travel box. So this is really where every bike would start. So this, we would do custom geometries, anything that the customer wants specifically, if they wanted ECAP or DI2 or an extra
Yeah.
fender boss or extra water bottle boss, it would be listed on this sheet. So
Is there
this is
like
where
a
every
paint,
bike starts.
like a paint schedule?
Sometimes there is, usually because that goes directly from the designer to Bill, who is our painter. He usually, that's transmitted electronically, just because the paint mock-ups don't come through as well on a printer as they would through on the screen. But sometimes, yes, we do have mock-ups for paint, which I can show you. So this is kind of our mountain bike specific area. So this is where they'll do all of the mountain bike builds that come in. And right now we're getting mountain bikes in. They come in basically complete, and then we just pull them out of boxes and finish them. So I can show you quickly in Phil's room, you can see, but this is what a paint mock would look. So we'll get something like that. These are all bikes that we've done for customers, and they're actually like all over. So it's kind of cool because we've done some everything. There's kind of a cool Colorado sort of thing going, and then for just different e-bikes, we've done full cameras. So yeah, it's just kind of every step of the way, each one of us kind of gets a little bit of our own input on the frames, which is kind of cool, I think. Definitely gives a bit of a different, like I do my filleting, which is the putty corners. I do that a little bit differently than everybody else does. So it's kind of cool when you get your own sort of hand on it. So don't know if we have much in the way of completed bikes in our showroom. We had a bit of a break-in a few weeks ago, so we have a boarded up window. We moved a lot of our bikes out of our showroom because of that, but this is a new, this is one of the 2021 Arctos 2.9er. Same with that. These are probably awaiting pickup from customers. And then this is a completed, this is one of our electric gravel bikes.
Wow, you can't even tell it's electric. They've done such a great job of incorporating the battery and motor into the.
Yeah, it's a neat system. The Fauza system. So basically, this is the latch for the battery. So this entire down tube area, this would be the battery. The motor mount plugs right into the bottom. So everything, it's driven through the crank. But yeah, when you look at it, it's a pretty integrated system.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Looks really clean. And then there's this is the control port. So this is just a piece that snaps in, and you can click this for your different settings. And this is a pedal assist. So it's not, there's no throttle or anything like that. But yeah, I think, for what it is, it came out looking very streamlined and pretty nice. So.
Well, so your facility is amazing. I can't believe that building. And we've heard that you're moving to Golden.
Yeah.
How soon will that be? Will it be the same size facility, or are you hoping to get bigger or smaller?
I think the size might be physically maybe a little less square footage, but it will be far more efficient use of space. Like originally, this space was housing 3 different companies.
Okay.
So this was the pros closet
Yes.
and roll wheels as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now, roll wheels is still here. They occupy kind of a section out in the warehouse. And then Pros Closet consolidated with their Boulder location, so they're no longer here. So really right now, we've got a lot of space
Yeah.
that isn't necessarily, I don't want to say that it's going to waste, but we definitely have areas where we don't have to have so much space in between machinery. I went out to the site
Yeah.
for the groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But obviously it was just a field at the time, so I don't have a good sort of judge as to what kind of space, and we're only going to be in part of it because it's going to be sort of a live workspace. So there's going to be condos, is my understanding, on the upper
Above, yeah.
floors.
Yeah.
Then in the middle floors, there'll be like community workspaces, community meeting rooms, things like that. And then the lower levels will be retail. And then on I believe it's the north end of the building is where Alchemy will be. So
Cool.
we'll actually face like
Apex.
lookout. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it should be nice. It's supposed to be, very green facility, which is really cool. As far as lunch rides, stuff like that, being able to like literally right out of the door.
Red Rocks and a hogback.
Yeah.
And, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's right there.
It's
So,
even, yeah, I mean, like Yeti's close, but you're going to be even closer. I mean, like,
yeah.
I
And
mean,
we're butted right up to the trail. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost silly. So
yeah. Well, I only have the kids for 10 more minutes. And so I want, like, if there's a question out there that somebody has, you could throw it up in the chat and I can tell it to Brad, or if somebody wants to ask Brad directly, you could do that. They have to be off at,
and
by
if they need, if there's more questions than need be, because I did like some of the questions that came through. I'm happy if you want to send me an email. I'll answer anything that I can, because some of the mountain bike specific questions I can answer a little bit, but I can get the answers to those far more specifically for people.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to correspond through, a PDF or an email as well.
Yeah.
So
Well,
however you guys
let's open it up.
want to do it.
What does anybody want to ask Brad? Hello.
Just out of curiosity, how much of this could be automated in like the future if you were to scale up, or like does it have to be done by hand?
It depends. If you're making a stock bike and every bike is the same size and you just do a size run, we could automate more of the processes, although that automation is extremely expensive. But when you're offering custom geometries, that's where it starts getting tricky, because every tube gets cut to a different length and a different angle. So it's something that almost has to be done by hand, which is one of the reasons we do this here. There's very few custom geometry carbon manufacturers. Carbon. Yeah, titanium, any kind of metal, it's much easier, but carbon is very, very rare to get anything in a custom geometry. There's a few out there that do it, but when you look at USA made carbon bike manufacturers, that's a handful of handful of companies. And then when you go custom geometries, Calfeet, there might be some smaller,
Allied,
like,
maybe.
does Allied do custom?
I
They might.
thought they did. They might. Yeah.
They might. So it's kind of, that's an interesting thing.
That's your
To
niche.
date,
Yeah.
to date, I think we're the only ones that do a custom geometry carbon electric bike.
Yeah.
That'll fall soon. Like it's too, that market is growing too
Yeah.
quickly. So it'll, that's definitely it'll blow up.
All right,
But
good question.
for
Connor.
now,
Handmade.
yeah, yes, very handmade. And you know me, I've been in production before. So I know what goes into bikes. I've been in the bike industry for, geez, on and off for 20 some odd years. And when I got here, I was shocked at how much hand is actually in the handmade here. Every hole that I put in a frame is done by hand. There's
Yeah.
no jigs, there's no drill bit. I literally Dremel a hole in it and I open it up by hand to the right size because you can't drill carbon. If you
Right.
drill carbon, it splinters, so you actually have to grind it away. So, a lot of that stuff, all of the shaping in between the tubes, all of that junction, it's all done by hand.
Yeah.
So, all of those smooth curves and all of that, it's sculpted
Yeah.
by hand, which is really cool. And it's neat because everybody here, and it's interesting because we're all very different, like some of us are mountain bikers, some of us are road bikers, like just a huge range of people, and we're all like very passionate about like what we're doing. Even the guy that makes the carbon tubing, Will, he's not a big cyclist, but he loves bikes and he's really good at making the tubing. Like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And just knows all of these like little subtle things to make it come out. And it's neat learning from him. Obviously there's other processes that I have yet to sort of get my hands into, but it's coming, like the CNC machine behind me. I'll be working on that soon. I'm already making tubes. I make bottom brackets. I make head tubes. And that's from rolling out the carbon and cutting it to wrapping the mold, putting it into the metal molds, heating, all of that. So, there's tons of little steps, and every one of us gets a hand in it, which is, by the time a bike is out of here. One of the questions that had come through on the PDF was asking how many hours goes into a bike, and it's about 40 per bike. Yeah. It depends on the bike. E-bikes, the electric bikes take several more hours because there's so much more. There's just different stuff, having to put a battery in it and having to put a motor in it. There's extra provision in the frame for that. So there's a lot of extra time that goes into that part of it.
That's awesome. So is there another question? There's a couple things I want to say before we sign off here, but anybody else have another question for Brad? Grady's giving me a head shake. So some back history. I've known Brad's one of my oldest friends. We've shared a really long life together, and it's so awesome to see him sharing this with my class. Like when I think about all the adventures Brad and I have had, and then to bring my work life into connecting with my personal life, Brad, this is so awesome. And it's such an honor to have you talk to my kids today. I can't, I'm like tearing up just because it's so cool to see what you're doing and to see, my kids getting to hear you share that, so it's so cool to have you do this today. I mean, tell everybody at Alchemy we appreciate it, and thanks for spending your time doing this. Yeah. And kids out there,
and everybody here was very excited that you guys were going to chime in and that had, that you had questions, and like I say, the owner and engineer Ryan and Matt, both of them were like, yeah, totally, love to have them, and we're gonna be in your community soon.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be literally neighbors.
Yeah, and I think too, like Brad and I, we met at a bike shop, and our connection with cycling developed this friendship that we will forever have. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of you out there too, and it doesn't have to be cycling, you might have another passion that you find, and you'll make some friends with it, and then that'll be life. And so I just, try to keep yourselves open up for meeting new friends and sharing your passions with people, and it'll affect your whole life forever. So
Yeah. For the better.
yeah,
Much for the better.
yeah, exactly. So, and again, it doesn't have to be about biking, but it just, meet new people and do cool stuff, and you'll have a great life. So, Brad, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you from all the kids. We'll send you a little care package here soon, and
Like I say, put together, I do have that list of questions that you had sent me via
Yeah.
PDF. I will go through and answer every one of those. If you have more, please send them.
Yeah.
I'll answer everything that I can. And like I say, if I can't get a really good answer, I'll find the person that has it.
Yeah.
And relay it, because there were some really thoughtful and insightful questions that came out of it, which
I gave some
I thought
extra
was
credit
really
for
cool.
some of those questions because they were so good. So,
Yeah.
there were some really great ones out there.
Well, and
So,
especially on the mountain bike stuff, it's neat, and it's huge. Like, that is one of the areas that has expanded so drastically, just since you and I mean, you think
Yeah.
about you and I doing the stuff at Dean, and then, like now you look at the geometries and the technology and how it's changed is just, it's astronomical.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, the bikes we were riding in '93 are nowhere near what they're like now. So,
yeah,
I'm
I'm the old
dating.
guy. See all the gray?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I
Yeah.
shaved. So,
Right.
well, I'm gonna ask you to sign off. We got to finish up with my kids. But again,
Okay.
Brad, much love. Thank you so much.
Of course.
What a
Thank
cool
you
experience.
for visiting. Like, I think it's really cool that kids are interested in this kind of stuff. And I'm like a kid in a candy store here every day. It's still
Yeah.
Christmas. So for me to share it is, it's pretty awesome. I mean, and for you too. Like,
Yeah,
well, definitely. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you, Brad.
Right
Let's
on.
all give Brad a round of
Thank you
applause.
very much.
Thumbs up in the Google windows there. So, but I'll
Right
talk
on.
to you, man.
Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
take care. So, thank you so much. All right. Well, I hope all of you enjoyed that and learned something new. What a great experience to see, like a behind the scenes of a Colorado company hand making carbon bikes. And like Brad was saying, that not many companies around do that. And the fact that we have it here in Denver, and the fact that they're coming to Golden is really cool. So, do any of you have any questions for me? All right, so all I see is Connor right now. He's got his big puffy on. Hopefully your parents have turned on the heat for you. But so thank you everybody for coming. I know that was kind of short notice for that, but I really appreciate you everyone being here. Tomorrow and the rest of the week will all be asynchronous, and you'll have some work to do on your 3D printed bike part, and you have to do some redesign of it, try it out. And I'll get that assignment posted tomorrow morning, and you'll have kind of the week to work on it. Thad, I have your 3D prints right here. So I don't know if you want to, when you come by the school for your testing, if you want to come by the classroom and pick those up, if you're still out there, Thad, that'd be awesome. And it's going to be important for your work this week. So just keep that in mind, that depending on the day that you have testing will depend on the day you have to do attendance. And then through the week, you'll have to do your work with your parts, do some SolidWorks stuff. And then my hope is by next week to have your next version designed, so I can get that 3D printed for you. And then one thing that I do want you to be thinking about a little bit is I'm kind of throwing around the idea of doing some sort of Shark Tank with your product and inviting some people from the cycling industry to kind of be the judges of your parts. So I'm going to kind of work on that project for probably towards the end. It'll probably be right around our finals time. So do any of you have any questions? No? All right. So one thing again, I've had 3 different friends work at Alchemy. One of my friends started it, and then another friend was working there, and then Brad's my most recent friend working there. And it's an awesome company, and I really want you to know how special that was to get in behind the scenes on that. And maybe in the next few years you'll see some Alchemies riding around Golden. I know every now and then I catch one out there. But I'm gonna let all of you go. If you have any questions, please stay on and I can answer them a little bit more privately. But I hope you all the best on your tests. For my seniors out there, enjoy your week. And then I will see all of you next, what would be next Wednesday? Wow, what date is that? Like the 21st or something? I'll see all of you then, and we'll get back to making bikes and designing parts and stuff. All right. You all have a good day. If you have any questions, stick around. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.
Real quick, so where is it? There it is. I put the cleat on it and tested it,
Yes.
and it looks cool. And there's two funny problems I have. The first I think I can solve is the pedal is so far away from the center of rotation, it's really floppy, which is
Well, hold on. So you mean like it flops over and always falls down?
no, I mean when you put your foot on it, it feels really unstable because it's so far above the axle.
Oh, yeah. I never thought
So I
about
need to reduce that width. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that either. But the bigger problem I had is this: I couldn't get it back out again without ripping the screws out. Had to go cram some wrenches into the pedal to get it back out again. How can we make this stronger so that the screws don't come out?
Yes. I have okay. I actually saw this last week and I've kind of held on to it. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Okay, PDFs. It was okay. So there's like 3 or 4 different ways to well, okay, so there's one about putting screws into the 3D print. And so there's a couple different ways to solve that issue. And then another issue would be just the strength of the part. And one thing is that we can 3D print it with ABS next time. And then we can also 3D print it at a higher infill.
Okay.
So those are 2 things. But I also think like, so you were saying when you were trying to turn it, it broke as you were turning it.
Yeah, it was just crunching just because it couldn't take the forces.
The retention of the spring was too strong for your print.
Yeah, so the print was, I mean, let's see if I can get these out and show you. Basically, the screws are flopping over as I torque on the cleat itself.
Yeah.
And it's just not strong enough. And so I was wondering, infill, maybe a different plastic probably would do part of the trick.
Okay. So yeah, here I'm gonna pull up this website, and it's got it's a great website. It's got kind of a lot of different ways to do it.
What's it called?
I'm gonna put it
I'm
in
in for
chat.
what?
Give me 1 second.
I see.
I've got so many things going on in my mind right now.
Gotcha.
Chat. So you'll have to kind of explore this website and then figure out which one of those would be best for your need.
Okay.
And so just keep in mind that we'll do ABS, which will make it stronger, and then we'll have a different infill. But on top of that, you are threading into plastic, and you need to figure out maybe thread into some sort of metal instead of that. You got that link?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Right.
so this is a good starting point. To me, it's really comprehensive. You can also, I guarantee you go onto YouTube and you type in like 3D printed metal insert, and you'll find a bunch of stuff too. So now you're gonna have to start doing some of that research and figuring out like what will be best.
Okay, sounds good.
Is that your only question?
That's the only one I have. Let's see a better question.
Not off the top of my head. I just do you have any other big plans this week, or is work or your schoolwork kind of easier for you?
Yeah, some classes we're still supposed to be in school doing something in every class, but I think that just means attendance.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Friday you missed the assignment from just doing attendance, so just always double check your Google Stream because you miss out on things. So,
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll talk to you later. Will I see you next week?
I hope so. I really do.
Okay. Oh, I hope so too. I'm glad that you're
Unless
helping.
someone else tests positive, we should be good. Cross fingers.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, take care and good luck with that.
Yeah, poor Aaron Macarelli just tested positive. Bella's dad. Aaron, yeah. And we're like, ugh. That's just
Bella's
sad.
dad, Bella's dad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I didn't give it to the Gabby or the like, ugh.
You think they got it somewhere else?
I don't know. We don't know. The timeline's a little weird. It's possible that I gave it to him, but there's like one night where I went over for a movie,
Yeah.
and then 7 days later they tested positive,
God.
which is a little bit outside of the symptom range, but
Yeah.
still possible.
Well, don't blame yourself. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
It's remarkable how, yeah, I was musing the other day that if I hadn't been tested, I wouldn't have known I had it. Like,
Right.
it's
Right.
so scary.
Right. I know, and it's hard because I'm feeling like in the classroom, like you know, I'm protected, but that doesn't mean that I still can't transfer it. So you still have to be
Mm-hmm.
really careful. So.
No, yeah. No, fortunately, I get my next shot basically as soon as I can after this, and that'll be 2, and hopefully some level of immunity.
Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry, Connor. That's all I can say.
Oh, yeah, I'll survive.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got it, not Kate.
Yeah, no, that's true too. Well, yeah. Well, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. And you know, if you're going through any of that threaded stuff, let me know, and I'd be happy to, you know, give you some of my other thoughts or things like that. I want
Actually-
you to kind of go through it first before I tell you the right answer or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I'll send you my design, and then
Okay.
you can just tell me if you have a better idea.
Okay. All right.
As-
Good
yeah,
luck.
I'm game for brainstorming. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.